And I think that this is part of the challenge in the Australian context with workability. I think that workability needs to resonate with the objectives of the business, and it has to be part of the overall people strategy. So how do you integrate it into the business and not leave it sitting sort of outside as a project or a special initiative that has a life? So Ross and I spent quite a lot of time as they were working on the development of their value proposition, and you can see from this slide up in the corner here we have the heart, which is about soul. So St George is a bank that has a soul. About growth, that they are on a growth path. About strength, that working for a brand that is strong, it provides you with security in your employment, and it also provides you with a great foundation for your CV. And the last one there is wellbeing. So through this platform of the value proposition, I started to work with Ross and his team through a design phase. How do we translate the workability model into an initiative that's embedded as part of the value proposition at St George? So it wasn't just about plucking the model and plucking the instrument and dropping it into the processes of the organisation. It was thinking about how do we design this to fit the culture and the objectives of the business. And you can see here that while we have encompassed the domains that workability looks at, we've actually changed the language a bit. And this is a bit of an earlier design than the final design, and your OHS is now rolled into the Your Work space. So we have 5 elements of wellbeing that we're looking at St George, and they are family and friends, separated out community, they are your work, your health, and your financial security. Some of the things that we found that are of interest are that in this, this banking workforce, so this is people who are in white-collar roles, we're seeing quite a high instance of neck and back problems. We're seeing quite a high incidence of stress-related or mental disorders in relation to depression, anxiety, which has surprised us. It's high on national view. We've also seen that a significant proportion of the St George workforce is above the upper level of the healthy BMI range. So although Ross, when he talks about wellbeing at St George, says that when they first started thinking about wellbeing, they went out to the market, looked at what their competitors were doing, looked at what best-in-class businesses were doing in Australia in relation to wellbeing, and what they found was that people were doing blood pressure checks and giving people pedometers and discounted gym memberships. And he didn't think that was a contemporary response to wellbeing. He didn't think that the health law was a contemporary definition of wellbeing. And so he believed that St George was already amongst the best in class with those sorts of initiatives, and so workability was taking the breakout step. Yeah, we've been talking to Comcare over the last year about workability. It's interesting that in the early days, when before we even started the research project in Australia, we went to both state and Commonwealth governments and said, look, we think this is a fantastic model. It's delivered through public policy in Europe. We think it'd be great to deliver it through public policy in Australia. And there wasn't an appetite at that time. These things, and it's always, and I remember being very disappointed. And that's when I, started thinking about how do you make it accessible for business, and you would have seen Harney's evaluations of workability around the economic, the return on investment, productivity returns. And so it is a commercial model that does have, good commercial underpinnings, and businesses like St George see that as a commercial opportunity. But then about a year ago, we reconnected with Comcare. They have a new CEO, and he's a visionary, and he's put together a fantastic team, and they're looking for a way to provide a solid evidence base across the work that they do around health and wellbeing in the Commonwealth workforce, and also with their insurance clients, and see that workability is a very robust model. They're still in the process of looking at whether workability is the right model for them, and I think that's the responsible way to proceed, and the duty of care around getting this right is enormous for them.